welcome back to Vinyl Friday, where the sun is forming this lovely dappled pattern across my shirt. Today, folks, we are jumping back on the Beatle train. Choo-choo! So we finished side A, and we took about a month's breather so that we could compose ourselves and prepare ourselves emotionally for the journey that is side 2 of Revolver. So I hope everyone's had a nice break. I've had a nice break. We learned about the wrecking crew. We learned about the birds. We judged the breakup of Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham. Who won the breakup? Ah! And David Bowie forecast the trajectory of his career. No biggie. But it's Beatle time. I hope you've all had a great break. I said that already. 2 things before we jump in. 1, this is Vinyl Friday number 80. There are 79 others of these. That blows my mind. The second thing is that there were a few donations that were made following the Yellow Submarine episode, which were specifically to fund the making of a papier-mâché Yellow Submarine. Maybe I should make a papier-mâché Yellow Submarine. And we're very close, but I think it'll have to wait until the next Beatles episode. Here's an update anyway. This is what it's looking like. It's approximately the right shape. It's got a little propeller and it's got its little periscopes. So soon, thanks to those of you who made donations, I've had a ball making this. Enough jibber jabber. Let's listen to some music. This is today's song. Good day, sunshine. Good day, sunshine. Track 1, side 2, Revolver. Picture this, my friends. It's the summer of 1966 in London. It is unseasonably warm. It is endlessly sunny. And on August 5th, I believe, this album comes out. What better song to soundtrack such a summer? A sunny, swinging 60s summer. I did that in one take. Not too shabby. Now, Ray Davies of the Kinks, who contributed his own little ode to this hot summer, raved about this song. He said, and I quote, "This'll be a giant. This is back to the real old Beatles. I just don't think the fans like the newer electronic stuff. The Beatles are supposed to be like the boy next door, only better." Bit of a dinosaur opinion from Ray Davies, but what are you gonna do? Despite Ray Davies' approval, this is actually one of the least popular songs on the album. I took to the Beatles subreddit to get the official word on the street, and this was ranked their 3rd least favorite song on this album, after Yellow Submarine and another track that we haven't gotten to yet. Most of the complaints centered around this song not being up to the standard of the rest of the songs on the album. The lowest score was 6.8, which I think just goes to show what an incredibly high quality album this is, that nothing drops below a 6 out of 10. Most of the songs on this album were ranked in the 8s and 9s. So in that sense, I can kinda see what they're talking about. Other minor gripes included thinking that the song was annoyingly optimistic, that the song was corny like the early Beatles. One person dared to say that the chorus takes away from the verses, and this person, I think it is gloriously obvious, is wrong. So my goal today is to demonstrate that this is a well-written song that is fully deserving of a place on this album. Let's go. We'll start by considering the song alone, in isolation, by itself. When I was 6 years old, a family friend found out that I had a deep love of the Beatles and that my parents were sick of the single cassette that we had of their music. And so I think partly as an act of charity towards my parents, they recorded onto a cassette tape the albums Rubber Soul and Revolver back to back. So for a start, I thought it was a double album for the longest time. This song is one that I adored from the get-go. I think that it is because it's a song that is unapologetically joyful, and it exemplifies everything about this band that makes me happy. Of course, the other reason is that it's a simple, easily digestible piece of music, right? Not exactly. Adult me would argue that this is yet another example of the Beatles hiding really complex musical concepts in an easy, accessible, enjoyable piece of music. So let's jump in there. Now, I'm just a person with an internet connection and opinions. So as far as you're aware, I could be pulling all of this out of my butt. So I've called on my good friend Leonard Bernstein, composer of West Side Story, to lend me a little bit of cred for this episode, so we'll be calling him in occasionally and getting his take on things. First thing of interest about this song is its chords. It doesn't really remain in the same key throughout. So let's pay a quick visit to the piano correspondent for some chord time! Well, hi there. The song begins here. Okay, good. Song's in E, right? Not right. It goes here. Good day, sunshine. Okay, the song's in B. The song is not in B. The verses go here. I need to laugh. Whew, it's a lot of plot twists. But wait, there's one more surprise in store for us. The song modulates up a semitone at the end. Good day, sunshine. Good day, sunshine.
Now that's not just cheery, it's also very unorthodox.
That's not the behavior of your standard issue pop song now, is it? No, it's not. Next, I'd like to look at some of the rhythmic anomalies of this song. Listen to the timing of this chorus. Good day, sunshine. Good day, sunshine. So in case for some reason you weren't able to glean the meaning of that very expressive, very personal interpretive dance, Leonard Bernstein is going to help us out. Count it for us, Lenny!
It suddenly, if you noticed, leaves out a beat.
Good day, sunshine. Good day, sunshine.
You see just one sudden bar of 3 among all those 4s. We never used to find that in pop music. It's new.
When I was preparing for this episode, I'd actually listened to the song a couple of times before I even remembered that timing anomaly is a thing, which I think just serves to support the idea I was trying to put forth, that these complexities in music are being wrapped up in this tidy, enjoyable little musical package. It doesn't jump out as something especially erudite or snobbishly intellectual. Not that I have any problem with things that are snobbishly intellectual. I am known to dabble in a little intellectual snobbery myself. But again, the complaint of many people on Reddit was that the song is too simple. So maybe they hid those concepts too well. Another thing of interest in this song is that it doesn't remain in the same feel throughout the song. We have this very broad, open, free, liberating chorus here.
Good day, sunshine.
It feels very open, right? But then the verse is more of an ambling, buoyant groove. Makes it sound like you're going for a jaunty little walk in the sunshine.
We take a walk, the sun is shining down.
And then the outro is like an exaggeration of that chorus. It's even bigger, even more open. The rhythm drops away.
Good day, sunshine.
Isn't that lovely?
It's tart, pungent.
I feel that in my chest when I listen to it. It is just very emotionally affecting music. I don't know, what do you think? This is also a song that wears its influences on its sleeve while maintaining, to my ears, a fairly timeless quality. If someone put out this song this year, I wouldn't think, my God, how antiquated. It's just a good song. It's just a good, timeless song. Specifically in the verses, we've got that sort of Tin Pan Alley thing that Paul McCartney does.
We take a walk.
That is very old-fashioned. Boom, 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 boom. But I think that Paul, who wrote this song, can't believe I haven't mentioned that yet. Just took it for granted. Whatever. Paul wrote this song at John's house, presumably while he was waiting for John to wake up, because it seems that that's how Paul wrote a lot of songs for this album. John, as he made clear to us, was only sleeping. What was I gonna say? And I think that Paul borrowed this wholesale from his childhood. His dad had a little jazz band.
Fun fact, this photograph largely inspired the cover design for the Sgt. Pepper album. Now you know.
He had other musicians in his family, and they used to get together and have these big sing-alongs. The Storytime correspondent can tell us more about it. Good day to you. We will be taking today's reading from The Good Book. Paul McCartney says, "We always had a piano. My dad was an instinctive musician. I have some lovely childhood memories of lying on the floor and listening to my dad play Lullaby of the Leaves." They were interested in funny time signatures without knowing it. Relevant. Further on, he says, he'd always play on New Year's Eve. Our family always had big New Year's Eve parties. They were some of the best parties I ever remembered. Eventually, Paul's father would end up getting arthritis, and Paul ended up taking his role as the family pianist at the New Year's Eve parties, where everyone would gather around the piano and sing and shout requests at him, and it sounds like a good time. There's also a sort of barrel house element to it. Barrel house is a genre that originated in the 1870s and eventually turned into what's better known now as boogie woogie, had a huge heyday between like the 30s and the 50s, which eventually bled into and helped form the kind of early rock and roll that Paul McCartney as a youth was just drinking up. For instance, this solo that George Martin plays has that same jangly, rattly quality that you might hear on a track like Blueberry Hill by Fats Domino. It's a classic early rock and roll track. Or for an earlier example, have a listen to the groove on Honky Tonk Train Blues by Meade Lux Lewis. You can hear it's very similar to what's happening in the piano in the verses here. It's got that bum ba ba da bum ba ba. It's sort of a boogie woogie groove happening. I think the similarities come through. And yet I don't think it sounds corny or hokey because it's offset by this brilliant, bold chorus choice. And to me, this song doesn't have anywhere near as much of an old-timey quality as songs that he would write the following year, like When I'm 64. Or Your Mother Should Know from Magical Mystery Tour.
Let's all get up and dance to a song that was a hit before your mother was born.
This just has hints of it. And in the sort of buoyant, jaunty peppiness of this song, you can hear stirrings of the direction that he's going to go in with songs like Penny Lane.
On the corner is a banker with a motor car.
And Getting Better off Sgt. Pepper's.
I used to get mad at my school.
The last thing I'd like to say about this song on its own is that it evokes two very clear moods to me. The first is simple joy. I find that Paul McCartney's lyrics don't always match up with the tone of his music. If you take an example like Good Times Coming.
That was a golden summer, wasn't it hard?
Similarly to this one, it's about summer, it's about being around people you love, it's about joy. It does not sound like that. It sounds like something awful is about to go down. This song, by contrast, perfectly aligns tone and lyrical content. You know, like when he says,
I'm in love and it's a sunny day.
You as the listener feel like you are the one who's in love on the most gloriously sunny day of the summer. To me, he has written a song that feels like sunshine. That's hard to do. Harness a specific sensation and render it into music, and he has done this on this track because he's a bloody genius. Obviously. Also, the way he sings it fits perfectly into the tone of the song. Like here, when he sings this.
Then we lie beneath the shady tree.
Oh, firstly, he sings it beautifully. Secondly, it's got that sort of happy languorous tone that you might have if you're having like a post-picnic nap in the dappled shade of a tree in summertime. It has that sort of sleepy, happy, lazy feeling. And so much the better if you're lying next to someone you're in love with. Perfect. The second mood that this song evokes, for me, is rapture. And that happens in the choruses. Listen to how the cymbals, sparkle, glitter. They sound like glitter. Like sunshine.
Good day, sunshine.
The rhythm opens up, the vocals open up. We've got those amazing 3-part harmonies.
Good day, sunshine.
They sound so good when they sing in harmony. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but man, do they sound good. But to me, it couldn't achieve that sort of emotional and spiritual, even, elevation without the more pedestrian nature of the verses. They play against each other beautifully. Just as you transition from the verse into the chorus, it feels sublime.
I'm in love and it's a sunny day. Good day, sunshine.
See what I mean? And I don't mean sublime in the That's great sense. I mean it in the archaic sense. To elevate to a high degree of moral or spiritual purity or excellence. That's what I mean. That's what these choruses feel like to me. And when at the end, they modulate upwards for the outro.
Good day, sunshine. Good days.
I think that's nothing short of beatific.
Good day, sunshine. Good day, sunshine.
Good day, sunshine. And they're like drowning in reverb. It's heavenly. And they sort of dissolve away.
Good day, sunshine.
What a way to fade out in a new key, a shifting meter, a sudden new counterpoint.
My only gripe is that it's a little bit sloppy in the editing department. Like, you can hear the cymbals cut. Even if you mute cymbals, they still don't quite sound like this.
Good day, sunshine.
See how they just disappear? To be honest, I didn't really notice that until yesterday either. And more on that outro. I love, as a listener, when attention is given to the so-called unimportant elements of the song. The ones that you're not going to spend so much time with. The introduction, the conclusion of the song, the outro. So it's special to me that they chose to do something different with this one in going up a key and then doing that canon thing that they actually did in the previous track, She Said, She Said.
She said,
And when I say canon, I mean, I think I've done this before, but this is a canon. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily life is but a dream. Merrily life is but a dream. Merrily life, Nah. That's enough of that. Sorry I had to do that to you, but it's the easiest way to explain a canon. They're doing it here, but to much greater effect.
good day, sunshine.
Good day, sun. Good day, sun. See how each of them is taking the melody and then throwing it over there, and one of them picks it up and throws it over there. I need more light. All up, it's like a kind of ecstasy. Care to weigh in, Lenny?
That's the Beatles, always unpredictable and a bit more inventive than most.
Now let's consider the song in the context of the album that it's on. Now, when I had that cassette as a child, the tape needed to be flipped after Yellow Submarine, so for years I thought that She Said was the side B opener, not Good Day Sunshine, and it creates a decidedly different feel to the album. Yeah, for years I thought that side B opened with a real kick in the pants, like a strap in, here we go.
I said, no, 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 you're wrong, when I was a boy.
But I also really like this song as the opener to side B, because She Said has this heavy, distorted, sludgy feel.
She said.
And this one is its polar opposite. It's bright, it's clean, it's upbeat, it's peppy.
I'm in love and it's a sunny day.
It's a breath of fresh air. It's earnest. It's also the first piano song on the album. But so far as we've been listening, we've had snarling, amplified tracks, acoustic lethargy.
Float upstream.
We've had sitar. We have had strings. We've had bubbles being blown in a glass. This is an album that never lets you rest on your listener laurels. Every song is a plot twist, and this song is no exception. Another complaint that I saw on Reddit is that everything else in the song is so deep and meaningful and philosophical, but I wouldn't necessarily write off this song as an exception to that rule, because philosophically it's coming from the same place as Love You To. Live in the now. Be mindful of your present circumstances. Enjoy it with the people that you love, because one day you will be dead. I'm sorry if this is not the moment when you wanted a reminder of your own mortality. Many of the songs on this album tackle elements of the human condition. And this one does too. Sometimes it's just nice to be in this sun. Look what it's doing to me! Being in love, enjoying a sunny day, having a nap under a tree. Those are parts of the human condition, just perhaps not the ones that Sartre or Camus were tackling specifically, you know? The Beatles don't need to be de Beauvoir on every song. you know? Sometimes it's nice to just be in love and have a picnic. Now, perhaps most importantly, I would like to look at this song and look at what was happening in the broader musical landscape at the time. Now, I believe that a lot of the complaints that I was coming across on Reddit stem from the fact that this song is being held up in comparison against a bunch of other songs on an album of powerhouses. So let's zoom out and see what Paul McCartney's peers were doing at the time. This song, Paul McCartney freely admitted, was inspired by Daydream by the Lovin' Spoonful. Lovin' Spoonful.
What a day for a daydream.
Good song. But there were lots of mid-60s good vibes songs that were floating around, like Sunny Afternoon.
In the summertime.
It's a Beautiful Morning by an act I can't remember, but editor Nancy will put here. And later, I Can See Clearly Now by Johnny Nash.
I can see clearly now, the rain is gone.
Feelin' Groovy by Simon and Garfunkel.
Life, I love you, all is groovy.
And with the exception of that last, each of the others was an example of some of the best work of its writer. Good Day Sunshine, I would argue, is comparable to or better than each of those songs. And it's being dismissed as one of Paul McCartney's weakest efforts. The Beatles on a bad day still had the ability to blow everyone else out of the water. That's what he's doing here. One last bonus point. If you listen very closely, you can hear John respond to something Paul's saying here.
She feels good. She feels good.
And you can sort of hear Paul McCartney crack a smile in that next line.
She knows she's looking fine.
Just a little detail that I'm sure some of you will love. I did. As I said, this is a song that wears its influences on its sleeve, but it weaves in more complex musical ideas while delivering a jubilant, easy on the ears delight. A strength of Revolver as an album is its sense of balance. You never have too much heavy without a little light. Thematically, instrumentally, tonally, for every heavy, sludgy, distorted song, you have something like A Good Day Sunshine. It is, for me as a listener, one of the most important elements of Revolver. It is never too heavy, too noisy, too distorted, too bleak, or equally too cloying, too sweet, too trite, too earnest, too childlike. It always maintains a perfect balance. And this song plays a critical role in achieving that. This is a song that is fully deserving of its place on one of the greatest albums of all time. And that's all I'll hear about it, okay? That's it. I'm just kidding. You're welcome to argue with me in the comments. I read them. I read them all, every week. Sometimes my sister reads them and she sends me her favorites. A particular favorite from last week was the person who complimented the trumpet correspondent on the very good tone that she got on a first run. So thank you for that. That was well received by me and mine. So my question to you this week is, do you think that Good Day Sunshine deserves a space on this incredible album? Yay or nay? And why? Discuss! Let me know in the comments. That's it from me. If you enjoyed this episode or you would like to support any of the weird things I do, I'll leave a link in my description to my Buy Me a Coffee page, where you are welcome to make a donation, but no pressure, friends. Thank you so much to everybody who has made a donation or signed up as a member. I appreciate you very, very much. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you here next week. Have a great weekend! Last week, someone inquired as to why there is an upside-down portrait on the piano. I can't speak to why it's on the piano. The piano just seems to accumulate things at random. But as for the picture itself, my mother is a giver of abstract gifts. Around last Christmas, my mother found this photo that she had taken of me from when I'm 16. I'd cut my hair into whatever the closest thing to a bob is that this hair will do, and I'd combed it out so it was a little bit wild. She cut out the photo and she put it in this little frame that she had found at the thrift shop, and then she gave it to me as a Christmas gift. So I'm the proud owner of a framed photograph of my 16-year-old self. Thank you, Mum. Choo-choo, choo-choo, choo-choo. That's enough choo-chooing.